Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to episode number 17 of the JeopardyFan.com's live panel discussion. Once again, I'm Andy Saunders. A bit of a shorter panel this evening, but we've got a few fun people, good faces to talk about some things. Our panel this week, returning once again, my co-blogger at the JeopardyFan.com, Jeannie Kenkel, also the founder of the site, also Ben Ingram making a return to our panel. Once again, the most recent Tournament of Champions winner. We also have from this past week's Sports Jeopardy champion Terrence Jordan, as well as from last Friday's Jeopardy episode, Emily Moody. Thank you all for joining us. Before I get to some discussion, a couple of public service announcements off the top. First of all, some more news regarding the Guardians of Peace and their hacking of Sony Picture Studios. I mentioned this off the top of the Kids Week panel last week as well. Good news to those following or who haven't really heard. Basically, there was a large hack of Sony Pictures by the Guardians of Peace. You've probably seen some news stories come out as of late regarding that, especially some emails which have been circulating because they have been leaked from Sony Pictures. Fortunately, and this is the important thing from what we've heard so far, from my sources at least, no contestant information has been leaked, which is good. The Guardians of Peace, basically, they appear to be associated with North Korea. They appear to be upset over the release of the Seth Rogen movie, The Interview. So of course, that's kind of what's going on there. A couple of other items. We'll discuss a little bit more about the Sony hacks in some of our later questions for open discussion. Second, a little bit of a personal thing I want to show off, and basically in my where I am in Guelph, we had what turned into a rather large fundraiser for the Brent Avenue neighborhood group called Secret Santa Guelph. Basically, it was a very large local gift exchange. About 200 people took part. Over $13,000 was raised, and my gift, the one I received, was actually very Jeopardy related, and I'm going to show that off right now. Basically, my match found a picture of Ken Jennings from Jeopardy. It's about 10 years ago, and he managed to Photoshop my face onto Ken Jennings' body, making it seem like I had won $1 million on Jeopardy. It looks really nice. Unfortunately, I have not won $1 million on Jeopardy, but I just wanted to show that off. It looks really good, and I'm quite impressed and quite happy I got that as a gift. Now,
it looks better with the stash Ken Jennings does.
Yeah, maybe he needs to grow one. We should
no kidding.
we should tell Ken that he needs to get a mustache together, and that might work out for him.
He doesn't like that.
No.
Jeannie doesn't. Somebody should tell him. I'll believe it to Ben. He's probably got the Tournament of Champions in. But so a couple of other things. First up, discussion. For those of you who aren't reading J-Board and might have been confused as to why second place was awarded the way it was after Wednesday's game, I know my own mother asked me, so I figured if she's asking me, she's probably not the only person who's wondering. Basically, the tiebreaker is in that situation. Well, obviously, if it's a tie for first, the new rule is a tiebreaker question. Second place, it goes to the person who led going into Final Jeopardy. If still tied, it goes to the person who led going into the Double Jeopardy round after the Single Jeopardy. If it's still tied, apparently, I'm not exactly sure what happens, but I'm sure that Maggie says something to that effect at some point in the contestant process, probably, or at least something to the effect of "It's never happened, and we're not really worried about it." So. Let's see. So yes, we've got Terrence on our panel. He was the champion in this past week's Sports Jeopardy episode. Actually jumped out to quite a big lead, and I thought he was looking for to take over first place from what Nick Hill did the previous week with the 29,001, but that didn't quite work out that way. So what was the experience like? I guess going out to the big lead and then kind of letting the field back into it, so to say, Terrence.
Yeah, well, before I started, my thinking was my main goal was just to try to get the win, and if I happened to get off to a great start and maybe find some daily doubles, I might have a shot to make a run at that top 3 spot, because the whole mechanics of Sports Jeopardy are a little different than the regular show, whereas the main goal is just to win. You come back the next day, you can keep on winning. But with this, I got off to that big lead, and I double Jeopardy. I think I just pressed a little bit too hard trying to go for that big score, and I didn't take my foot off the gas in time, and that's why we ended up with a tiebreaker. I should have tried to just preserve it and play a little more conservatively at the end, I think. But I got a couple wrong responses and let them back in, but luckily it turned out in my favor in the end. I got a pretty easy Final Jeopardy question, and then the tiebreaker was just one that I pretty much knew since childhood, so I was buzzing in as quick as I could on that one.
Yeah. Now, for the benefit of those who might not have watched the show, the tiebreaker, I believe the category was memorabilia, and the question asked it mentioned that the Diamondbacks owner purchased a certain player's baseball card for $2.8 million. Right. And of course, I believe that would have been the Honus Wagner 1909 card that makes its way around the various celebrity card stashes from time to time. I know Wayne Gretzky owned one at one point, and along with Bruce McNall, when McNall owned the Kings and Gretzky played for them. More thoughts on Sports Jeopardy. How did Dan Patrick's goal call in the doing the impression of, who was it? Cortez from
Andres Cantor.
Andres Cantor from is he Univision? Being from Canada myself, I've heard of him, but I don't really. He's a Spanish language commentator in the States, correct?
Right. Yeah, that's actually one that I got thanks to some of my preparation before the show, and that was, I think that's the only answer that I gave that was just the last name as opposed to the full name, because I wasn't positive if it was Andre or Andres, and I didn't want to get dinged for it just in case I was wrong. So I just went with Cantor on that one. Yeah. But yeah, Dan's impression was funny, but at the same time, it made timing the buzz a little bit difficult because you had to wait for him to finish.
Yes. Yeah. And I thought it was funny also when you said, "Do you need a second?" And
did you say that to Dan Patrick?
Yeah. He did in fact say to Dan Patrick, "Do you need a second?" after the clue.
Dang.
Well, when we did the whole the contestant briefing beforehand, Maggie was giving us the run through of all the rules and what to expect and all, and she talked about Dan and how he's just really good at breaking the ice. It'll feel like you've known him for years, and he can poke fun at you and feel free to kind of give it back to him too. He can take it. So that just kind of came up and seemed like a good moment to I don't know, add a little humor to the proceedings.
Cool. Okay, so for those of you paying attention, Emily has been having some technical connection issues. She'll just come back in, and we will get a chance to talk to her a little bit later on. Moving, or at least, also for those of you who are watching the Sports Jeopardy, there was a category with Gary Bettman. He For those of you who are just more familiar with the regular show, he speaks about the same pace as, say, Sandra Day O'Connor or Oprah Winfrey. And I hope to never see him on the regular show. For that reason.
No disrespect intended. No disrespect intended, guys, if y'all are watching. None.
Whoa. I'm sorry. There's complete disrespect intended towards Gary Bettman.
Who's Gary Bettman?
Gary
Well, I knew
Bettman
you'd say
is
that,
the commissioner. Gary Bettman is the commissioner of the National Hockey League and probably the most hated man in Canada.
Why is that? Why is he hated?
He's hated because most Canadians feel he's very American-centric towards the game of hockey, and it is detrimental towards hockey in Canada. And therefore, I mean, it's become a tradition when he presents the Stanley Cup to boo him.
Oh.
Oh, whatever. At least Raleigh has a hockey team now. We've had one for about 10 or 15 years, so.
They're not very good, but yeah, they are here at least.
They were
Hey,
good. That was fun.
hey, I was about to. They've won more cups than the Canadian teams have over the last 15 years. So
True. I guess you're right. Didn't think about that.
I mean, they're not terrible. They are, and I mean, they've got a good fan base. And if there's a couple of people from, I don't mind. I mean, obviously, I'm not cheering for them tonight, but
Y'all better at curling. I'm trying to get better at curling, but y'all are. I'll never beat Canada at that.
Okay.
Seriously.
So anything else you'd like to say about the Sports Jeopardy experience, Terrence, or?
I mean, it was a fantastic experience from start to finish. That was my first time ever trying for any kind of game show or anything, and I found out about it back in May from watching the regular show. They advertised that they were going to be looking for contestants, so I signed up. I was lucky enough to get an audition, went up to New York City for it, and
Okay.
felt like I knocked it out pretty well. And then I got a call a couple weeks later, which was pretty thrilling.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool feeling. And actually, it's been funny the way it all turned out. The day we came home from Los Angeles after taping the show, my wife and I, we found out we were having our first baby.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
About that.
He actually got me pretty good. I came home from work on Monday. We had gotten home the previous day. I came home from work, and she says, "Hey, I got a present for you." I'm like, "A present? What did you get me a present for?" She's like, "Oh, I'm just so proud of you for Sports Jeopardy and everything." So I'm like, "Oh, you didn't have to do that." So she gives me this little box and a card, and the card just says something like, "I love it when good things happen to good people," and inside it just says, "I'm so proud of you," and it was a great weekend in LA. And then I opened the box, having no idea what it is. It's this small box. I'm like, did she get me a movie or a book or something? And inside is a little baby outfit and like a pacifier that says "I love Daddy," and she's holding up the positive test when I look up at her. So I freaked out pretty good. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
That's great. What a sweet story.
Yeah. And what's funny too is the show just aired this past Wednesday. That's actually the day we found out we're having a boy also. So the
Wow.
have gone hand in hand the whole way.
Is that the one you were pulling for?
We were both leaning that way a little. I think we both want to have 2 or 3 by the time it's all said and done, and we kind of like the idea of a older brother to protect his younger sibling. So yeah, it turned out pretty good.
Oh, that's great.
Any ideas for a name or?
We got to get cracking on that. We had a couple girls' names that we liked, and we've been throwing names out for. I mean, we've been married for 2.5 years, and we were throwing names out even before that. And we've yet to come up with a boy's name that we can both agree on. So
Can I make if I'm not? Hopefully, I'm not out of line here. But considering the tie-in that with the pregnancy and the ultrasound around Sports Jeopardy, maybe Dan Patrick might not be the worst idea.
You're actually the second one to suggest that to me. Somebody that just watched the show said, "Oh, how about Dan Patrick Jordan? That's got a nice ring to it." So I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll consider that."
Okay, well, I guess we can move on to discuss the week of Jeopardy episodes. I hope.
Can I ask you a quick question before we move on?
Oh, of course, yeah, no problem.
I just wondered. You mentioned you prepared for Sports Jeopardy. I kind of wondered what you did.
Well, I basically had my wife reading me a whole lot of questions. We found online there was like an ESPN Jeopardy version that was made a few years ago, like a
Oh.
home game. And rather than, I mean, it's set up just like Jeopardy, where you've got the categories and the dollar amounts and all that, but it's all the answers came in this one big packet of questions, and we would just read right down the list, and I would be standing there with a pen in my hand just to kind of practice my whole buzzing in. And even on the plane ride out there, she was reading them to me on the plane. When we got to the hotel, she was reading them. So right up until the show, basically, I was trying to cram as much stuff into my head as possible. So I did that. I printed out some cheat sheets, things like all the World Series champions, all the NBA MVPs, the Olympic host cities, all whatever kind of stuff I thought might be useful. So I was pretty much trying to cram everything in my head that I could from the day I got the call that I was going to be on up until the day I actually taped the show. So I tried to not take it too lightly. I thought it was a pretty great opportunity, and I want to make the most of it. So
Work.
if you,
For you.
yeah,
It's great
it
that you
turned out
won
that
then because you put so much into it.
yeah, I actually got a few answers because of my my preparation that I wouldn't have known otherwise. And then if you see the show, they do that whole post-game interview.
Yeah.
And I mentioned how my wife was going to kill me because there were a couple of questions that I think they were actually triple stumpers that nobody got. And I absolutely should have known. They were pretty much word for word the same questions she had read to me. Darwin Torres, the Olympic swimmer, Bruce Sutter, the Chicago Cubs relief pitcher, and right as he read them, I'm like, oh, geez, I have to know this, and it just didn't come to me in time, so I was kicking myself over those. But yeah, the preparation definitely turned out for the best. I probably wouldn't have won without doing it.
Wow, that's
I thought I found the Bruce Sutter question a little bit misleading, to be honest with you. I always more associated him with the 80s and the 70s, but
Yeah, when he said Cubs reliever, and then Rick, one of my competitors, buzzed in and said Lee Smith. Bruce Sutter should have come to me for sure at that point once Lee Smith was ruled out. But yeah, I was, just drew a blank on that one.
But he wasn't with the Cubs his whole career, so.
no, he was with the a couple of other teams as well.
I thought he was with the Cards, but I might be wrong.
Yeah. Oh, he was with the Cards for sure.
Yeah, when I think of him, I think of him as a Card because I know that he was a Card before he came to Atlanta Braves. So. Hello, Bruce Sutter.
So it's not, yeah, but I mean, so tell us, sorry, actually I do have one other question. I thought, especially early on, I thought you were a little bit on the conservative side with the Daily Doubles.
Yeah, I watched the episode and I was like, what is the matter with you? Why did you do that? Because early on, I felt like I was in a good position and that I had a decent chance of winning. My competitors knew their stuff, but I was beating them really well to the buzzer. That was one of my main focuses going in, was to be quick on. I think my years of video game playing came in handy on that one. Having quick reflexes.
No doubt.
Yeah. I look back and I risked, I think, 2,000 and 1,500 on those. And honestly, there's no reason I shouldn't have made it a true daily double because they didn't have much. I think even at one point, Rick was negative. So even if I would have gotten it wrong, I would have still had a great shot to still win it. But if I got it right, I could have put myself in a great position to put up a big total and maybe have a shot at the season-ending championship. So that would probably be my one regret looking back, is that I went conservative on the daily doubles.
Fair enough. Now, I think we should probably move on to the Jeopardy episodes at this point. Let's see. My notes tell me. Well, Monday's Final Jeopardy, the movie title references for this 1971 film, the references to the 1948 film Red River. That was hard. It was hard. I can't exactly say it was the most difficult final of the season because we did have the flight simulator question earlier this year, but
boo. Well, no, not boo,
but I mean, come to think, like, in hindsight, the Last Picture Show, it's, if you know it, it's gettable. I know Chris Miller on J-Board mentioned that he had when he'd watched Last Picture Show, he made a note of, okay, what was the Last Picture Show? And so it's like, Red River. And so it came easy to him. But I'm guessing, did any of you guys get that one?
I never would
No.
have gotten it.
I had no idea, so
I saw 1971 and I saw River and I thought it was Deliverance. I thought they
Oh.
were. I know that's
Yeah.
not what Deliverance means because I read the book. I
Yeah.
still hadn't seen the movie, but I was like, well, maybe in the movie it was they were being delivered from the Red River.
Yeah.
It was the Chattooga River, I think.
it's one of those movies that I've seen it. I would I don't need to see it again.
Okay.
How's the book, Ben? How's the book, Ben?
How's the book?
Oh my gosh. Read it, but well, same as Andy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's weird.
Well, I'm at the library right now, so I could pick it up before I go home.
Well, they might be out of copies, so I don't know. They might all be circulating. Like, what is this about again?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure it's quite to your tastes, Jeannie. Knowing you.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, really? It's like obscene? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it's more than that.
Or just well, it's just gory,
Okay.
right? It's not.
I don't know. I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
So, let's see. We haven't had a 5-day champion in a long while, actually, since Julia Collins. Her run, ironically enough, ended on the 10-year anniversary of Ken Jennings' first appearance.
I
So
didn't know
that means June 2nd, her run ended, and so Ken Jennings' run started on June the 2nd, and of course, it has been a longer time than Ken's run since we've had the 5-day champion. So I wonder do we have any theories as to why that is?
Yeah, Julia put a curse on it. That's exactly what happened. It's the curse of the sweater. No, I'm not going to get into that. I think it's just an illustration of how much parity is in this game and how much, really how much luck is in this game. Everybody talks about luck, but I think I was a beneficiary of luck. I think anybody who wins, loses, draws, whatever is a beneficiary of good, bad, or medium luck. So it's probably just an anomaly. I don't think that they're purposely cherry picking contestants as they did on the original show, or so I'm told, to make more competitive games. But there have been some pretty competitive games. We just haven't had anybody dominate yet. Maybe soon.
I know Arthur mentioned during the Tournament of Champions that Jeopardy is becoming almost like its own sport. And I feel like overall the contestants are probably a little stronger in more recent times than they might have been, or at least from top to bottom. So maybe that could contribute to it also.
We've had a lot more to stand on. We've got y'all's blog, we've got other resources out there, we've got the archive, we've got all of that stuff. So I think that's why we're getting better. But the weird part is, you mentioned Ken Jennings. He won 74, and then the next year David Madden won 19. I was like, well, we're going to get a 20-game winner, once a year. And so far we've had one 20-game winner and 4 who have won more than 10. So it's hard to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, Ben, it takes a lot of luck also. You could be a great player and just get unlucky. You don't get the daily doubles, or it's just the categories aren't up your alley, and someone's having a good day, and 20 times in a row, it's very easy for it to go up in smoke, I would guess.
Yeah, I've got several names in mind. I'm talking about great people who have bad luck, but it shows you how evenly matched everybody is too.
Mm-hmm. So, let's see what else has come out recently. I don't know. Mindy had a bit of a serendipitous daily double, being from Schenectady and getting a question about New York State. Where the answers are Albany and Buffalo on the New York on Amtrak's Empire line, and I'm like, oh wow. I mean, I'm pretty sure that train stopped or goes right through Schenectady, and
Hmm.
Nice when that happens.
yeah, I'm just curious as to what if you guys felt you had anything like any sort of serendipity like that on your shows.
I didn't have anything that hit too close to home for me, but I know Rick, who I went up against, he had mentioned that he was a big San Antonio Spurs fan, and he got, I think it was a 2,000-point question in Double Jeopardy that this team used to be known as the Dallas Chaparrals, and he was instantly in on that with the San Antonio Spurs. I was like, that hurts.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you talk about serendipitous moments, I had, I think I was on 13 shows. I had probably about 13 shows worth of serendipitous moments. Probably everything you learn is a serendipitous moment. I think there was one thing I studied that came up that whole time, but it was in $2,000 box, and it was something Liz kept drilling and drilling into me. It was in $2,000 box in the final. It was the one about General Wolfe, and I figured Andy might know that one, but it was.
Oh yes, Andy knew that one.
I thought Andy would know that one, but I knew nothing about that. I just knew that it was the death of General Wolfe. So that you don't have to have depth to be successful. You just have to have those serendipitous moments, I guess.
Yeah. By the way, there's also a death of General Montcalm painting as well. The Montcalm being the French general in that Battle of the Plains of Abraham.
And an etching of General Braddock being being buried after all that stuff happened. And there's paintings of everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
There's not one of me.
Yeah. Back to the Jeopardy made a reference this past recently to want to see my etchings. Speaking of etchings, and on a Daily Double, and it's like, oh boy, I'm thinking, oh, that's the oldest line in the book. How do you not? Yeah.
Want to see my etchings.
Want to see my etchings. Made a reference to want to see my etchings in the Daily Double, and then the contestant missed it, and it's like, ah. But
I knew that
sometimes
Christine Bellata answered it a few years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Want to see my etchings. Want to see them?
Yeah.
I don't personally, but that's all right.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So I'm thinking I've got a couple of other discussion questions regarding various news stories that have come out over the past week. There have been some juicy ones. Two regarding the Guardians of Peace hack. A third one regarding a piece that appeared on XO Jane, I believe today, actually. I'm going to open with the two about the Sony, or the hacking of Sony Pictures. The first one, the Deadspin article that was titled How CBS and the NFL Teamed Up to Screw Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. Basically, it's an email thread regarding them convincing CBS and the NFL convincing Jeopardy to run a category to tie in with Thursday Night Football, and then the bait and switch happened, and that was a blank and blank answer this week too, bait and switch. And the bait and switch was the fact that CBS then says that, oh, by the way, a bunch of the affiliates are preempting your show for Thursday Night Football. And Harry Friedman was none too happy. Now, hearing about this, do you think this affects your viewing of CBS or the NFL at all? Would you say so?
I don't know that it would change my mind about anything. I mean, I'm an avid NFL fan and also an avid Jeopardy fan. So I know anytime Jeopardy gets preempted, my wife and I are not happy. Like it's happened when we've had any big weather events. There's been tornadoes in the area, and I'm like, just put Jeopardy on instead. I don't want to hear about this. I could see this anywhere online. I mean, you would think they would be able to come up with some kind of solution with other affiliates or alternate channels. I know a lot of different cable packages have like like an ABC2, something like that. So yeah, I don't know if it would change my thinking about either one of them. Like it's just kind of enlightening to see the behind the scenes of how all this politics goes down in the real world.
What I find kind of funny is that CBS feels the need to put on a pregame show. I mean, not necessarily so that people will listen to what everybody's saying, but probably because if you're flipping around, you're thinking, ooh, there's a football game coming on, so they can get a half an hour's more worth of channel surfers. Remember the old ABC Monday Night Football games? They came on at 8 o'clock and kicked at 8:20, and then or 9 o'clock in some at some points, and then it was over. They didn't make it out. Well, they made it out to be a big event, but they didn't put the half hour in front of it because the station should have that access. Um, my opinion is obviously I like to see Jeopardy. I'm still going to watch the NFL though, but it was miscommunication, I
Hmm.
guess, maybe flat out lying, but um, it happened. It happened. Maybe security will get a little bit better because that's hard to secure data like that. It really is.
I'm with you too, Ben, about the whole pregame shows. I don't have a whole lot of use for them, and what drives me crazy is you'll check the listings to say, oh, I know the game's on tonight. What time is it? And it'll tell you the time, not that it kicks off, but the time when the pregame show comes on. So I'll turn it on and say 8 o'clock, expecting the game, and then we've got the studio show going, and it's not actually coming till
Yeah.
8:30, and I just turn it off and wait till it actually starts.
Yeah.
I think Keith made an interesting point. The highest rated Thursday night game got, I think, like an 11.9, and Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy get 8s and 9s. And if 11.9 is the highest rated game, it was the most competitive game. The rest of the games were not competitive. So
Yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. You draw your own conclusion.
And I think, we've had Thursday night football has had snooze fests like that 6 field goal and 6 field goal only performance last week from the Cardinals and Rams.
I don't think
Oh,
we're looking up this week either with
yeah.
Titans and Jaguars. That's
Sure,
probably
yeah.
the worst one of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I picked the Jaguars, so I'm going to be watching that one with interest. The only people who watch those pregame shows are probably gamblers and fantasy players, and I'm both, so
I think so.
whatever.
Also coming out of the Sony hack this week, actually the story broke today, a Radar Online story, basically with Alex Trebek upset at being asked to retape an opening. Actually, I believe it was the opening to Thursday's Kids Week episode. I actually made reference to Alex's speech last week during the live panel, and I thought it was very interesting on its own. Knowing the context, I think it's even more interesting now. Basically, according to the Radar Online article, Trebek exploded in anger after he was asked to retape a segment of Jeopardy Kids Week following an incident with a contestant. The problem started near the end of the show when the contestant was in the red, making her unable to play in the final Jeopardy round. I believe this was the Wednesday episode. If you're interested in knowing who it is, you can go to the archive. Basically, moving on, yes, the contestant was visibly upset and ran backstage crying with her mother. The producer and her mother eventually calmed the girl, and she returned to the set to watch the taping of another episode. But the mother wrote in a letter to the producers that she was quite taken aback with Trebek's reaction. According to the mom, Trebek didn't ever console the girl backstage. If he had taken the time, he would have known, like you do, that my daughter is not a sore loser and does not become emotional solely over losing a game, the woman wrote. She was upset about not being able to completely play the game to the end. Basically, I mean, I think that I saw New York. I think it was the Daily News referred to this woman as a helicopter parent.
No.
Now, in light of this, should or should not, for when casting Kids Week, should Jeopardy interview the parents as well as the kids?
No. I mean, I don't think so. I don't think anybody could have foreseen the situation that happened. People go out on before Final Jeopardy all the time. People lose all the time. I don't know. I don't know what it's like to not play Final Jeopardy, to be honest. But I would not be very happy.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole Sony hack email deal thing. First of all, it's none of my business. But since I was on the show, and 3 out of 4 of us have been on the show, the 4th one will be, I'm pretty sure. you're going to be told about it. People are going to come up to you and say, "Hey, did you hear about this and such happened?" Um, but like I said, that's none of my business. And the reason that Trebek did not go backstage is because he's not supposed to. I think the people watching should know that the writers and the staff, minus the contestant coordinators, are kept just absolutely separate from the contestants. It's like an invisible line, a physical line that you cannot cross. We're in this half of the studio, we're there at the other. And as far as the way Trebek handled it on the air, I think he did a good job.
Okay. I tend to agree with you in terms of that. I think Trebek did a very good job with it on the air. Now, whether that was his original speech or the retaped one, I'm not sure. I might have to go back and look closely to see if it looked retaped or retouched at all. But what do you guys feel, Terrence and Jeannie, about whether Kids Week parents should be interviewed?
Interviewed like in the audition?
Yeah.
That seems like overkill to me. I mean,
Okay.
I don't think I would have wanted my parents interviewed before I went. I know I'm not on Kids Week, but yeah, you want to put it on the kid. I mean, especially you see some kids, they come from all different situations. They could come from rich homes, poor homes, all different things, and the parents are not necessarily a reflection on what kind of kid you're going to have. So I think it's better to leave it up to their own merits, personally.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was being considered. I think that's a terrible idea.
I don't know. I don't think it. I don't think it's a consideration thing. It was just an idea I came up with in my head as a way of possibly avoiding the helicopter parent, for example.
Oh. Okay. No, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. And the third piece of news stories, former contestant Beth Ford Roth, she penned an article that was on xojane.com. I believe that got published today, or at least I saw it across my news feed today. Basically, it was published yesterday, my bad. Basically, it happened to me. I was boob shamed on Jeopardy, speaking of basically the live tweeters back from her episode regarding she was making comments on her appearance. Would you guys say that the live tweeting of Jeopardy has gotten better or worse since 2011?
It can't get much worse than 2011. You know, stuff like that happens, but it happens all the time. I heard someone say Twitter is just it's like a national conversation or something like that, and people make fun of television stars or contestants or whatever appearance all the time. I think what the difference in Beth's case was, and I hope she doesn't mind me referring to her by her first name, was that she put a really, really positive spin on it.
Mm-hmm. That's one. I mean, I would definitely agree, and I can definitely think that there were, because as she said, was even though the tweets knocked her off her game for a few days, that they didn't change the way she felt about herself or her Jeopardy experience, and I think that is very good of her, very positive from her to do that, because as you guys can all attest, that being on Jeopardy, any Jeopardy is supposed to be an excellent experience for everyone, for you, and I think that's the hope of the contestant coordinators, that when they cast people that and go through the taping process, that being on the show they try to make it a highlight of your life, and I hope that that's the case for all the contestants.
I think honestly that's a good message for just anybody on the internet. Obviously, the internet can be a cruel place because everybody's anonymous. They're behind a keyboard, and there's going to be people that praise you and people that tear you down, even if there's no good reason for it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, especially on Twitter when all you have is just 140 characters to get a point across. You want to make a name for yourself or get the most likes or retweets or whatever. You might go a little more extreme. So yeah, I think you need to be able to brush those things off and just enjoy it on your own experience. Don't let others change it for you. I mean, I don't think Sports Jeopardy has gotten any fraction of the attention that regular Jeopardy does, rightly so. But I mean, if people were talking bad about me, whether it's because I blew my lead or they thought I looked ugly or whatever, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it would have.
Which you don't, by the way.
Yeah.
What's that?
You don't look ugly.
Oh well, thank you. So yeah, I mean, I don't think my experience could have been tainted by what some internet tough guy would have been saying on a keyboard. So yeah, I think
Russ Hodges.
I believe. Yeah.
Who's that? Russ Hodges?
That was
Russ
my
Hodges. That was the Daily Double he missed.
Okay.
The announcer who made the Giants win the pennant call.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was the start of my tailspin.
Oh.
That's a hard one, though. That would have been a good get.
Yeah, it would have been, but I got the other two daily doubles earlier, so I guess I can't complain too much.
Yeah, you just needed to bet a little bit more on them, but that's okay. You did quite well, and you got the win, and you got your $5,000, so that's always good. One thing that actually Emily was going to bring up, but she unfortunately did have the technical issues. She brought this up in the pre-show, actually. One other unintended consequence of the Sony issues is that the contestants recently have been unable to get their contestant photos with Alex, and that is that's one of those unfortunate and sad things that has happened. So I hope that these players will be able to get those contestant photos with Alex because, hey, as we can see, that's important. So.
Got to add a couple of zeros to that there at the end, or.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll give Terrence a shorter fence and left as Bobby Thompson had, but.
There we go. Andy, I've been in touch with a couple other contestants from my taping day. Like they taped 5 shows the day I was on, and I was the second one. And one of them I've become good friends with since. His name is Andrew Hard. He's the upcoming episode this Wednesday.
Okay.
And he mentioned to me yesterday that he hadn't received his photos yet, whereas I got mine with Dan Patrick about a week before it aired. They sent me 3 photos, one with me and Dan Patrick, one with all 3 contestants, and then kind of that upper deck baseball card looking one. So he said he hasn't gotten his yet, so I'm sure that's a byproduct of the whole hacking incident too.
That's quite possible. I hope that I hope everyone does end up getting those photos. Maybe they're just delayed in trying to recover from everything. So
Could be.
Well, it's nearing the 45-minute mark, and there's a Montreal Canadiens game that I would like to be watching soon, in which they will wipe the ice with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Nah, I doubt it.
I hope that people hear that and will. I'm sure if that doesn't happen, that people will remind me of that later on tonight. So
yes, indeed.
I'd like to thank all of our. I'd like to thank all of our panelists at this point: Ben Ingram, Jeannie Kenkel, Terrence Jordan, and also
Emily.
Yes, Emily. Sorry, Emily Moody, who she unfortunately had some technical issues. We will try to get her back on at some point to discuss some things. So yeah, we'll definitely try to get her on again for sure, and also some other contestants as well. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to us, and we will see you at some point next week, shortly before Christmas on. The JeopardyFan.com live panel. Thanks again for tuning in, and have a great night.